Today I'm going to do a talk on, it's going to be post-exploitation password gathering with a tool called Mimikatz. Mimikatz is a hacking tool. I'm getting a real strong vibe of blue team in this room, which is good, I usually am on the red team, so I'm usually the attack side of things.
We like to know both sides of the story.
All right, well, hopefully you learned something new. This is my first ISSA meeting, so the vibe is definitely a little bit different than I'm used to. So we'll get on with this here.
Yeah, our name kind of gives us away.
You're the red team guy with an EMC shirt on. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, for sure. Okay, just making sure.
That's how you get up to
know. Quick bio. My name is Frank Catucci. I am a senior information security consultant. I work for LSASS, one of those evil cloud security companies. My main focus on a day-to-day basis is web application security. So I run a lot of the web application pen testing, web application scanning processes. I spend a lot of my time on the web app side of the world. So I do freelance some pen testing and network kind of administration gigs, but for the most part, LSASS keeps me traveling and very busy, so that's what I do. If anyone was at besides Charleston, I spoke there. I don't know if anyone remembers my talk there, but I did the OSINT with social networking, social media, and geolocation data. So I don't know if you remember that.
I remember that.
All right. So new to Charleston ISSA. I live up by Columbia. We don't have ISSA, so I go here and upstate sometimes. So primarily I'll be communications officer here. A little bit of background. I know everybody gets into IT a little bit in a different format. So obviously military, people coming from coding, people coming from auditors, people coming from kind of everywhere. Just to give a background, I started at help desk in the early 90s and kind of moved forward with sysadmin work, building Novell servers and all that fun stuff, and then went out to the Cisco world, became network engineer, and that kind of led me into the whole firewall IDS revolution. And from there, I did some analyst work, and then right now, I primarily focus in web application security research that I do contribute to calls as well, and some freelance red team. Just to give you a quick bio, it might be a little bit different than what you're used to. I've never spoken in an engagement like this. Usually, it's some kind of hacker con with you know, Johnny Long T-shirts like I see back there. At least I see one. But so we'll go through, and hopefully this isn't remedial for you guys, or hopefully there's things in here that if you have questions, stop me at any time. I'd be more than happy to talk about anything to help you understand what I'm talking about, or even if it's real, you know, way below where we're supposed to be, tell me and I can pick it up a little bit. So. Complex password requirements. Complex password requirements are a great idea for all your environments, right? So everybody, as you know, you're going to want a long, complex password. You don't want something that's easily guessed, even password phrases, etc. It's a good idea. But if you have a weak link where I can gain access on your box, on any box, I'm pretty much going to get a guaranteed local administrator access, and I'll probably end up with domain admin at some point, just for 1 week. So it's not to say complex passwords are bad, but they may be trivial. I'm going to demonstrate a tool called Mimikatz, and I'm going to dump plain text, clear text passwords. I don't need the hash. I don't need to do pass the hash anymore. Not to say it doesn't work. It's worked for the last 10, 12 years. So
Windows just re-added it to Server 2012, R1.
Yes.
For admins only.
Yeah. and I do have some news on that front towards the end. So we'll touch on it, but as Microsoft progresses, they're doing a little bit of work on 8.1 going forward with WDigest and not having to retain clear text, but right now it's pretty much still out there.
We're talking a pure Windows environment to use Mimikatz, right? Just to clarify, instead of box.
This tool, yes, this tool that I'll be showing you a video demonstration that I did on a virtual network engagement will basically show you on a Windows machine. On Linux attacks, etc., we can use different methods, but for tonight, for our talk, I'm going to demonstrate this tool on Windows machines. And it'll work on any flavor of Windows, with certain exceptions on 8.1 with the latest patch, but basically anything before that, it'll work. So I'll show you a brief demonstration of getting the shell. Getting the shell on the box is, there's 1,000 different ways to do it. The one I'm showing you here is old, it's outdated, it's antiquated. I basically use a vulnerability, Microsoft vulnerability, and get the shell. But on that point, though, with every 0 day that comes out, or every, you look at like how RSA was hacked or something like that. So there's going to be 0 days out there that are just as useful as an old one if you don't know, if the patch doesn't exist yet. So it's still a possibility. The last thing I'll do after I show you how I don't declare text passwords from the video, I will discuss some mitigation steps that can be used to defend against Mimikatz and other utilities that might use the same methods. Like I said, Mimikatz is just one tool, and your antivirus and anti-malware is pretty much useless because most of these people you can recompile this stuff and pretty much evade any. But I can do another talk on that if maybe if we get some more bodies that are interested. I'm not a big name, I guess, but we'll do what we can. Again, just to recap, these are just some notes. Long, complex passwords are good. This is just a post-exploitation example. I'm not going to demonstrate all of the methods that you can use to actually get access to a box. Phishing attacks, social engineering, any kind of drive-bys, etc. And for the most part, you're only as secure as your least secure host. Exploits and incidents can and will happen. Phishing attacks will get through filters. Malicious websites will be reachable through any type of proxies and any type of filters. Antivirus bypasses will continue to occur, and the same thing with 0 days. There's an interesting note out there right now that when XP sunsets, I heard estimates of anywhere from 30 plus 0 days that are out there that will not be released until Microsoft stops support. And as soon as there's support, obviously some of them will go to the highest bidder, and some of them will be probably leached out and released somewhere on the underweb or wherever. So if you could imagine, and I'm not talking maybe strictly your secure environment where you're working in a building like LSASS or something like that, but if you are paying attention when you're out in any retail environment or a restaurant or anything else, you'd be surprised on newscasts, etc. You look in the background, you see a lot of Windows XP still out there. So as support for that sunsets, everything that I'm showing you here is just as valid as as a 0 day getting written for Adobe or something like that.
Most popular OS for ATMs.
Yeah, XP. And as you know, the point of sale devices have a version of XP that won't be sunsetted at the same time. I think it's another 12 months of support, but either way, it's headed that way. When compromises do occur, they will occur at some point. The one I'm going to show you here is just using LSASS, and basically the utility just injects and memory dumps from the LSASS process. Real quick, in case you don't know, obviously if you do, LSASS is the Local Security Authority Subsystem Service on Windows machines. It is responsible for enforcing the security, but more importantly, it verifies the users that log onto a Windows computer or a server, handles password exchanges, and creates access tokens. Now, the most important part here is that logging on, right? So let's pretend that I have a process on a compromised machine, and I don't do anything with it. I just let it sit there. So it may be a desktop that your secretary uses, or a desktop that your help desk tech uses, or a desktop that anybody uses that's not important, that doesn't have access to critical data. Just somebody that uses this random workstation. At some point, a local administrator is going to log into that box, right? At some point, a local admin has to log into the box for someone. Then I'll have local administrator password. At some point, maybe that local administrator password works on other machines. Maybe not in your environment, but in a lot of environment, they're going to use GB or something, and they're going to push out the entire local admin password is going to be the same, maybe perhaps per location, maybe across the board. Now you have local admins to all of the boxes. I did a pen test that was kind of interesting, where everything was really locked down. SQL was configured to a T. And all of their kind of concern was around the SQL box. Well, I was able to compromise the local admin password on the server. Didn't have any rights, but having local admin password on the SQL box, I was able to inject process and get SQL data out. And I didn't have SA or anything like that. But I mean, we can do another talk on that too. I just keep going. So I'm going to go to this Evil Cat demo here. And at any point in the video, I'll pause and kind of just explain what's going on. Some of it's a little bit slow. I didn't do the demo live because, as you know, things can happen when you do it live. So it is recorded.
And it's actually pretty easy to get a domain admin or something like that to log on.
Yeah.
Something as simple as locking the user screen over and over and over. They unlock it, 2 minutes later it locks. They're going to call somebody. Now you have a local admin or even a work group admin doing the same thing. He gets locked a few times. All of a sudden they call the domain admin. Domain admin comes over to log in, and you've now got his credentials.
And you don't have to lock it anymore. It's all over.
Yeah.
At that point. And let me tell you, if you have a hash for a password that's 14, 15, 20, 30 characters long, it's a pain in the butt to crack that hash. Right? So you're going to use any kind of method you can. I don't care if you have a room full of GPUs running and using rainbow tables, etc. It's going to be a pain.
And depending on the algorithm too. It's anything like scrypt or bcrypt, have fun.
Yep, you'll be there for a long time. But I don't care, because I'll just wait and get it in plain text, and it'll be a lot easier. So I'm not trying to talk down past the hash, right? I mean, it's always worked, it'll always continue to work. Hopefully they'll fix it at some point, but this just makes life easier. So let me drag this over so y'all can see it. Try to make it a little bit bigger. Get this full screen on this side will work. Okay, great. So some of this screen may or may not look familiar to you. If you've ever done anything with the Metasploit framework, I am not using any GUI or anything or any paid version. This is completely. Is this too bright up here? Can you just not see it?
I was seeing if we could dim part of the lights.
Oh, okay.
Maybe battery doesn't work very well.
Just a half of them, but it doesn't look like it's... Oh, that's all. There you go.
That works. Okay. So if anyone's familiar with the Metasploit framework, I'm not using any paid versions, etc. This is 100% free. This was written by a gentleman called H.D. Moore, and he's since sold it to Rapid7, who develops a paid version of Metasploit, Expos, and all that fun stuff. But this is the free version that's still updated and supported. And I know plenty of people who are still writing exploits for this. If any good Ruby programmers or even decent Ruby programmers out there, well, you know, there's a huge community that are writing exploits for this. And it is in Ruby, but okay.
It's warmed up. Yeah, much brighter.
Sorry, it's not on my screen here, so I'm trying to play it. Okay. So here I'm demonstrating basically. I'm just going to type show exploits. This is once it's loaded. Again, I'm just running this on Kali Linux, but you can run it on anything right now. These are all the exploits that exist in Metasploit. I just did this to show you how many of them there are. They range from 2012, 2014, all the way back to 2000 because they still work. And so here's a huge amount of exploits that are getting loaded and updated daily. I have access to beta versions of the exploits that are out there that I can share. There is one out there right now for Oracle that is not patched, so anything below, I think 11G, is it 11? Anything below 11 something basically is wide open to dump Oracle. So there's one that's ready to be released, and it won't be released yet. Well, I just am going to use the NetApping one here. I'm going to type use exploit. Type in the exploit I want to use. And the one for Oracle, hopefully they'll patch it before it gets released, but they've been notified numerous times over the past several months with responsible disclosures, doing it the right way, so hopefully they'll patch it. I'm going to set the remote host to the host that I'm going to use the exploit on. And then I'm going to tell Metasploit to use the exploit. This isn't the fun stuff here. Okay, so now I have the Metinterpreter session, which is basically I have access to that box. Right? From here, what I'm going to do is I need to upload files to the host. Right? Because I don't have anything there, right? So I'm going to use, and for this I took the whole library. It has all some fun tools in it. You don't need everything. And again, AV bypass, all you have to do is you can either recompile or actually script it, and there's a couple notes I have later about that, but I'm basically going to upload the Mimikatz files, and this can come from anywhere. I'm going to upload this to that workstation because I'm already connected to it because I set my remote host. So now you can see that I'm uploading those files. I'm going to open up a shell in a second. Just, you know, a lot of these files you don't need. You need the sectoral here, Mimikatz executable, and then a DLL, and that's pretty much it. So this is the shell on the box. Basically, I'm showing that the files were uploaded. I'll highlight it here. I'll go down. I use the recompiled version of Mimikatz because it's all in English. Because the normal Mimikatz that is out there and the source is in French, and I don't speak good French, so I use the recompiled version in English, and I'm willing to share if anyone wants it. But so now here I launched the English version of Mimikatz. That's not standard. Basically, you get the executable. This is running on the host. What I'm going to do is inject the LSASS exe with my custom DLL. It's going to dump the memory out, dump the memory blocks. There is a way to do this where you do not need. You don't need. You can basically script. You can script this to work so you don't have to upload executables. You can trick the user into doing it themselves. You don't have to upload it. So basically here, I'm injecting the process. I don't know if I missed something the first time, waiting for the client connection, it's injecting the process, and you'll be able to see it in Process Explorer if you had it running or whitelisting specific PIDs, etc. That's one way to get around it. So once it's running, I'm going to just type in the command, again in English, which is helpful. Get login passwords. There I am. There's all my passwords on that box in plain text. I'll show you that the length and complexity of this password is something that would be a pain in the neck to crack. So this is the administrator, and this is the call center server 4, and this is the password. Wow, this is a really long password, don't you think? ***! That hash would be a pain in the neck. Not impossible, but it would be a pain to crack. But I don't need to crack it because it's in plain text. I have Kerberos, I have wdigest, etc. All of this, again, on this domain, corpdomain.com, call center server, and the administrator password in clear text. And that's it really for the video. Again, for the length of time for the talk here, there's a lot of different things that you can do on the exploitation side. So I could do, if anyone's interested, I'm more than happy to do a full talk just on the exploitation side and not so much on the Mimikatz tool. Or the blue team side, I'm trying to block it or whatever. So I'd be more than happy to do that if there's interest for sure.
Yeah, mitigation would be good.
I'm getting there. We'll do some mitigation.
I saw it on your preview. So.
Oh, you did? All right. I wasn't as slick with that as I thought. Okay. All right, so real basic questions. Some of this I paraphrased. So I'm giving credit to Pentest Monkey because I use his stuff sometimes. So why does this work? Well, why do clear text have to be stored in LSASS at all? Why? Why does Microsoft have to do it? You don't need a password to authenticate, you just need a hash. So why, for Windows I mean, so why do you need, why does LSASS keep it? Well, the password's required to support HTTP digest authentication. There's other schemes in there that are basically different pieces of integration. Integration and communication between different processes that won't support just the hash. And yes, it's still that way. I don't know why. A lot of this stuff was designed before security really was the main factor. So that they require the clear text authentication rather than the hash to authenticate. Not that it would be any better if you got the hash, but again, it's a lot easier when you don't have to crack a hash, and if the password is this long, you have it in plain text. Bad news first. Mimikatz is not unique. It's just one example. I recompiled it in English. I don't know if it'll obey AV, but I know it can if you want it to do so. Again, altered or compiled to obey all AV and malware. I tried it on a few major ones. It's not. I mean, it's a pain with some of them, but it still works. So 0 days also continue to grow, right? So there's more 0 days coming out where there's no patches for. And those 0 days are being used to hit sensitive targets, right? So we're not going to waste, if I'm smart enough to develop a 0 day, I'm not going to waste it on website defacement so much anymore. I'm not going to waste it on trying to get my name out there. I might just sell it. And if I sell it, someone's going to pay good money for it, and they're going to use it at Target, or they're going to use it at RSA, or they're going to use it on SAIC, etc. Something that there's no patch for. So there's a lot of bad news there. And this can and probably will happen to you somewhere at some point on some machine in some fashion. It may not be that bad. You may get caught, you may catch it, but think about how many times you get alerted to a virus or malware on a machine. It happens, even with all of your stuff updated. So some good news. I know this picture is hard to see, but we'll look at a Windows matrix here, and what this is showing you here, okay, is the storage of this in the Windows versions that Mimikatz can penetrate, right? So as we progress, okay, as we progress with Windows 8.1 on this bottom, right here, you'll see that that data is becoming less and less in memory, right, with Windows 8.1. However, if you look, Windows 8 in 2012, look at the difference between Windows 8 in 2012 and Windows 8.1 in 2012 R2. Someone's paying attention, right? So that's some good news. Microsoft's paying attention a little bit. They're starting to move a lot of those processes out. I don't have a lot of the information on why now, why all of a sudden. I think it has to do with less interdependencies on clear text. If anyone has any better ideas other than that.
So some of that actually for Windows 7 and 8,
yep.
They've actually brought in a security team.
Okay.
Lots and lots of people, some of them being Kaminsky and a few others.
Oh, is that Katie's team thing there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So Windows has brought in a dedicated security team, consultants, not hired them, but more as consultants come in and basically fix this because of the fact that they were getting hit so bad. And it's like, well, how can we fix this? And
so Dan and all of the White Ops and all those guys are doing
yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, Michael Tiffany's whole team.
Awesome. So I didn't know that, but I did have a conversation with Katie Musaris, who runs the Microsoft security team, well, part of the team, and also does the bug bounty program at ShmooCon this year. And they gave away a $100,000 check at their Blue Hat. It's called Blue Hat. It's the Microsoft Security Conference this year that they had. And so I do know that it might have something to do with some of the other things too. Some of the other increased security for Microsoft that she's trying to get going. But handing somebody a $100,000 check in front of everybody for essentially it was a mitigation bypass, but a 0-day or a bug bounty is pretty good motivation. You know, if I told you, if you find something, I want to hand you a check right here in front of everybody for $100,000.
Well, and to add to that,
sure.
One of the big things about the bounties is they know if you discover a 0-day, there's a good chance you're going to sell it. And if I pay 10% more than somebody else, but I save millions of dollars in the media spotlight of it and patching and everything else, I get it patched on the back end. It's, you know, between me and that person, then yeah, I spend $100,000, but I save $5 million. That's one thing the bug bounties have really helped with, but it's still a very gray area.
Yeah. If anybody is on Twitter, recommend you follow if you're interested for Microsoft. It's Katie. It's Kaemo, and she runs that. So it's heading in the right direction. Microsoft looks like they're waking up a lot. I mean, if you look all the way from Windows, whatever, the beginning to Windows 8, they pretty much haven't done it. So now it seems like they're on the right path. Bad news is Windows 8.1 on enterprise desktops is running on what percentage of your desktops out there right now?
0.00.
Exactly. So, you know, Windows 7 and 08 R2 is what I'm seeing a lot, which is fully susceptible to these attacks. Now again, R2 for 2012 will probably be adapted before Windows 8 on workstation. That's just what I usually see out there. So let's go on to what can be done. I'll get a little plug here for my company since they pay for me to do stuff that's fun. Implement or improve on your existing vulnerability management, your web application scanning, and your policy compliance program. Qualys offers all of them. So does everybody else, but just have to throw that out there. Patch everything. Don't just patch what you think you need to patch. If your patch is not going to break your process, patch it. Have a very rigid patch program in place. Easier said and done here than a lot of private industry, non-DOD or government. Enterprise is not doing that as much as other people are doing. So patch all things. Those users you were talking about earlier, make sure they don't click on stuff. Don't click on it. Don't do it. Even though malware, and I know, even though that malware and AV can be bypassed, keep it updated because as soon as the 0 days out there hitting the big guy, there's a definition for it. So if you're not the target, you might as well block it before someone else says, oh, well, this worked over here, let's try it over here. Keep your AV and malware updated. Keep all your software updated. That kind of goes with patching, kind of doesn't. Keep on the latest versions of releases if you can. Keep firmware updated. That's a lot more relevant now. Anyone who knows or reads up on anything LSASS or ASSAS or Belkin pretty much knows that it's not that hard to hack. And then once that stuff's published out there, you have every script kiddie trying to do what they can to, I don't know, they're bored looking young and learning.
It's actually gotten worse. Somebody once pointed out that we actually got a new breed of wannabe hackers. This isn't script kiddies anymore, so click kiddies. They basically did a program. They're told, "Hey, kid, when this light turns green, put this number in there and click this button."
So Anonymous did that with low input impact cannon. Loic, Anonymous did that last year on the was it FBI or CIA website for distributed denial of service. They actually used that technique. They basically said, when this turns color, if you support Anonymous, click this button, and basically shut down the websites.
Nice.
So what can be done? Use IDS, use IPS, and HIPS. I hate acronyms. If you don't know what any of these mean, feel free to ask. HIPS is basically an IPS on a host device or endpoint workstation, things like that. Now, multi-factor authentication is a huge one. Again, I try to advocate because if I get your plain text password, and I may not get domain admin, hopefully I don't, but if I do get a password and it works on Citrix or it works on your VPN or it works somewhere else, that's not good. So, state of South Carolina had, everybody probably knows, but state of South Carolina got one user got compromised. They got credentials with some kind of either 0-day or key wallet, according to Mandiant, but FireEye. But so without multi-factor authentication, a hacker of zero skill, if you even want to call them that, logged into Citrix via the web portal with a username and password, decided to just basically run backups of the data, essentially encrypted and FTP it out. It's not rocket science. But if there was any type of multi-factor in place, that wouldn't have worked. And hopefully it would have set up a red flag. Now there might have been some kind of pivot point or something, but that particular attack wouldn't have happened, and I wouldn't be getting free credit monitoring from one of 5 different people who are giving it to me today. Use EMET, right? Enhanced Mitigation Experience Toolkit. EMET is if you're running IE, out there for most of your desktops and things like that, use EMET. EMET will prohibit most, not all, it's not a silver bullet, it will prohibit most attacks that are via web browser. If anyone follows any kind of news on CryptoLocker, there's a law firm in Charlotte who basically lost their entire everything to CryptoLocker because they were using an old version of IE. They got the ransomware and it went in and basically took all of their files hostage on their entire network. Yes, they paid $300 and they got it back. Whitelisting, yes, whitelisting works. But it's one layer. It's just one more layer. There has to be processes that are run. Your LSASS process has to run. If you kill your LSASS process, don't let it run on the workstation. Your users aren't going to be able to do anything. So there's certain Windows processes that can still be compromised that have to be whitelisted. But it is still a good thing to use because obviously any of the custom executable that you upload, unless you get the user to download it in a format that matches hashes or MD5s, then it might not work with the whitelist. Last but not least, educate and evangelize. So keep your security programs going wherever you are. Keep your users being educated religiously. So again, your users don't click stuff. That's usually how it works. Or if you're RSA, your magic box catches the virus and puts it in quarantine, and then your exec exports it because he must see that Excel spreadsheet. My contact information here, at this slide deck can be available to anybody who wants it if you're interested. My email, my LinkedIn is pretty much my name. I'm on Twitter. Yes, it's protected. Yes, I will let you follow. It's protected for various other reasons. I'm on IRC for Freenode. There's my name if you're ever there. My cell phone, feel free to use it as long as you don't send me texts about free Nigerian money. Again, I'll make this available to anybody who wants it for tonight. And I'm also available for any general questions. Like I said, most of my work is web application security. So that's where I do most of my focus is trying to break web apps, and that's pretty much what I do. So I do other things for calls, and I do other things on the side. This is just one idea I had for a talk that I haven't done yet, so I wanted to do a Mimikatz talk. It's kind of scaled down. I didn't do the red side of it as much as far as getting the shell, because I wanted to spend a little more time with discussion, maybe some collaboration on prevention. So some good additional reading. I don't know if anyone here has ever worked with Chris Gates. Chris and I are friends. He works for, actually, he owns the company now. He's a member of the NOVA Northern Virginia Hackers, and his handle is Cardinal Ownage. He works with Rob Fuller on some projects and things like that as well. But here's a really good link. Again, I'll get the slide deck available. He's able to bypass AV without recompiling by getting the user to actually do it for him with some scripts. So there's some pretty good reading there. Obviously, if you have Google Translate, that's their blog for the Mimikatz tool. It's all in French. And if anyone is interested in the English version, I can zip it and send it to you named as a document or something if you want to play with it. And then, again, Pentest Monkey, I put in here all the time because it's not a super maintained site. I mean, it's maintained somewhat. It's not maintained as much as it should. The blogs are kind of old and dated. I use it more as a quick reference. There's really good, I don't memorize every switch and every different command for NCAT and things like that, so I use his site a lot. I use his site a lot for those type of reference materials and things, and I always throw, anytime I'm doing any kind of presentation or talk, I like to give full credit. So, and this monkey's a good site. Last but not least, Not So Evil Kitty. We will say that's not the Mimikat, but if anyone has any questions or comments, I'll talk about anything. It doesn't have to be about this. I like to hear my own voice.
How often do you get down to Charleston?
So I do have clients in Charleston. Most of them are on an NDA. I do have a large medical university who I can disclose because they said I can disclose. So I'm down in Charleston probably, I don't know, once or twice a month at least.
Because I'd like to further learn more about the web applications and how we can mitigate known risks. I mean, folks I've known putting together websites for DoD, they're using all kind of back-end databases and think just because there's a web front end, they don't need to protect anything else. And
those are the ones I like.
yeah, they're out there all over the organization. So I'd like to learn more about that.
Yeah, there's some great tiered approaches for web apps and securing web apps. I mean, everything down to, so there's multiple levels, but you can do source code analysis. So start with source code analysis.